What do you make of what we've seen so far?
Look, I'm in Mar-a-Lago, so I got to make sure I'm not subject to my own algorithmic or even now physical echo chamber. But I do think that it's going not well, but very well, actually, for Donald Trump, for Republicans. Typically, even if you're looking at counties where historically this haven't been contested in contested states, these things still didn't have correlations for how it's going across the board. And so the atmosphere here is, step down to this dinner I'm in, but just given to you in kind of real time, very positive, and I think very positive for a good reason. And I think we could be looking at a thick majority in the Senate, and I think we're going to be looking at potentially an earlier than even expected call for Donald Trump, where we're not going to be waiting days for this to play out. That's where we are right now.
Has it gotten more positive over the past 2 hours and 45 minutes?
Yeah. No, I think it is. I think over the last hour and a half, I think it has become. I think the environment's palpably more positive, and I think for good reason based on what I've seen as well.
Well, let's talk about that, because what do you make of the thing that Rich was just saying about how there's Trump, of course, is his normal controversial self, but it does not appear, at least so far, to have resonated with these core groups that we were told might be repulsed by the comics comment at MSG. He's doing very well with Hispanics, or whatever else he's done. It seems like she's not crushing him with the women. I mean, what do you think it is about Trump and Trump's messaging that has gotten him here?
See, I think it's a little bit different than something that's about Donald Trump, or whether it's his, sense of humor or sense of ability to people to relate to him, which I think is a valid point you made, Megyn. I think it's something different this time, which is the fact that this is a historic election where you get to actually compare a guy who was actually in office for 4 years and was out of office but very visible as the opposition for 4 years as well. So I think it was like, Grover Cleveland, the last time the United States of America had this, what was the late 1880s. So since then, we haven't had that opportunity. And I think what you're seeing here is nothing that Donald Trump says, let alone some comedian introducing him who he didn't know about in Madison Square Garden as a proxy. That's not going to shake people's opinion of a guy who they've had as their U.S. president, who was making policy decision and personal decisions by Twitter. Whether or not you like it, that was Donald Trump. And we've had him for 4 years. And so I think in some ways, the idea that even in the late stages of this race, that some small thing that he said or a surrogate said or a non-surrogate said could somehow tip this race, no matter how the media wanted to spin it, was a bit of probably a wishful myth from the people who oppose him. Like him or not, the people know exactly what they're getting. And I think that that's part of what made this race so unshakable, try as they might. And every method they did try, and we can sort of delineate and beat that dead horse many times over, from ballot removals to, frankly, for crazy people, assassination attempts, to switching a candidate at the top of the ticket. Nothing really, I think, was capable of shaking this through the end, because people know exactly what they're getting with them. And that's what they're voting for, is what they got for those 4 years. That's at least what I see in this.
Not to mention the lawfare. So what do you think, Vivek?
Yeah, while
I have you, I gotta ask you the speculative question. I mean, if he does win this thing tonight or overnight, explain what you think will happen. Because we look at this team that he's put together, yourself included, and Nicole Shanahan put together this great closing ad. It was sort of like the Marvel superheroes, all these unusual friends coming together, right? From Bobby Kennedy to you, to Nicole, to Elon, JD. It's something we haven't seen before in modern political history. What does that look like as Trump takes the oath of office?
Yeah, look, I think that, most of that group that you named is right here. I think maybe everyone in that group is here tonight. And I think one of the things that's remarkable about it is that we don't all agree on 100% of nitty-gritty policy questions. And that's part of what makes this new kind of alliance a beautiful thing in American politics, to say that we agree on the basic rules of the road, even if we have some policy differences on what level of state action or muscular state intervention we want in some particular economic question. Those are questions for another day. So I think what we're going to see in phase one of this, as Donald Trump takes office in January 20th, is, I hope, and I think it's going to be the case, Megyn, a kind of national unity we haven't seen in a really long time. Multiple former Democrats involved in some way, multiple independents, multiple of us who ran against Donald Trump, multiple people who are outsiders coming from the world of business to go in and shake up the government. And I don't think we're going to go incrementally. I think we're going to go big, go early. And I think that that's good for the benefit of the country. And I think that's going to be a phase of uniting the country against the bureaucracy, against the unelected managerial class and three-letter agencies that have for too long been making policy. I think that's going to be phase one of this. I think necessarily because of the fact that, this was not people who are 100% policy aligned on every micro question. I think if you roll this forward 2, 3, 4 years, you're going to see healthy then debates emerge within the America First movement itself about the level of state interventionism we want. Do we want to use the regulatory state to accomplish our objectives? Or do we want to get in there and actually finish the job of just shutting it down all the way? Where are we on questions of declaring economic independence from China versus, trade that's required to enhance that or make that happen? Where are we on the question of legal immigration? We're all vehemently opposed to illegal immigration, but where are we on legal immigration? So I think it's going to come in two phases, where in the first phase of this, we're going to see a kind of unity that goes beyond just unity in the Republican Party, but frankly, unity for the country by bringing together this truly diverse, and not in the democratic identity politics sense of diverse, but an actually diverse coalition that revives and infuses, I think, a kind of spirit we've been missing in our national character for a long time. And then I think that will lay the groundwork for what I think can be some healthy, constructive debates on some of the smaller but still more important policy questions in the long run for the Republican Party. And I think the America First movement will be stronger for having that debate, but I think that's not going to come in year one. I think in year one, we're going to see a level of unity around the basic rules of the road, from free speech, meritocracy, self-governance, shutting down the managerial administrative state. I think those things, that diverse coalition you described, is rock solid on. And then I think we move this movement forward from there.
Wow. This is a vision into what could be if Donald Trump actually wins this thing tonight and possibly maintains control of the House as the Republican Party and wins over control of the Senate. Vivek, all the best. Great to see you. Thank you.
We'll talk soon. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Wow. I just want to tell you one story about Vivek before I bring on my next guest. Years ago, I had a woman on the show who got fired over some BS cancel culture nonsense because she stood up against the DEI stuff being shoved down her throat. And I've never told this story before, but I got a call after the show from a friend of Vivek's, and I didn't know Vivek. And he said he wants to help her. And he volunteered to pay her legal fees in going after, and that he wasn't even on the national scene yet. I'm like so proud of him that he's gone from this guy who just like was on the outside looking at it and said, how can I help? This is nonsense. Was a real warrior against the woke DEI nonsense, which is all but collapsed. It's not done, but it's collapsing. The Democrats didn't even run on it. They ran away from it. The New York Times did an article on that. And now look at him on an inner circle of power, part of the possible Marvel team if Trump wins, and he may not, but if he does. So good for him. Let's be honest. The world is not getting any simpler. Whether it's a natural disaster, a supply chain issue, or just a nasty virus, things happen that we simply cannot control. But what we can control is how prepared we are. We have seen time and time again that preparation is key. It's about being proactive, not reactive. That is where the JACE case comes in. The JACE case is an emergency kit with prescription antibiotics that cover a huge range of common infections. This is just a good idea to have around. The JACE case takes the guesswork and the panic out of challenging situations. You will have the right medication when you need it, and in times of uncertainty, you really don't want to be dependent on outside systems. With the JACE case, you have a practical, reliable solution right at your fingertips. It's about taking control in a world that sometimes feels out of control. So don't wait until it's too late. Get prepared now. Just go to jace.com, that's JASE, and enter MK at checkout. Promo code MK at jace.com to get the right meds the moment you need them. And this is about smart preparation. Don't forget that, for you and for your family's peace of mind. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.